industrialization was, or it was a phase of industrialization. Secondly, to also convey the kind or the changing nature of the state and socio-cultural relationship because of the industrialization. Okay. Let us move then. Start with the criticisms of Taylor. Taylor or scientific management. Rather than criticizing Taylor, we should criticize scientific management. So how can you criticize scientific management? No, on what grounds? No, first you break it into various categories. Based on the methodology, okay. Based on the principles, okay. Based on the assumptions, correct? Or okay, let us divide it then. On certain basis we will criticize. Okay, so one criticism can be done. Based on the methodology. Okay. So what criticism can be done on the based on the methodology of the Taylor? What method did the Taylor use to study? Observation and the evaluation of only the lowest level of the organization. Okay. So most of the knowledge that developed was based on observation and experience. So based on observation and experience, now can this be called as empirical? Oh, that is also a kind of empirical study. But is it something like the notion of positivism, which is fact-based? So is it fact-based? Why? Oh, this part may be fact-based, okay, but this part may not be fact-based. Experience will also include your own assumptions, your own value system. Okay. So the methodology was not okay. If we take the actual meaning of the term empirical, then the way he developed this knowledge was not empirical. Okay. So methodology was one of the biggest factors, okay, where we also deny that okay, whatever he talked about may be relevant then, but not relevant now when we study the organization more empirically today. So we find that there are so many other aspects to be studied in the organization or even for scientific management than what he did. Okay. So his methodology was not accepted. Second, the focus of this study. Okay. So instead of talking about general principles of management or organization, he was more concerned with the principles of production, basically. Okay. So it cannot be called as scientific management. It was more related or concerned with the scientific management of production process only. Okay, it was not a scientific management of organization. Fine. So the focus of study was okay, also criticized that it was an atomistic, okay, very small focus was there, okay, that was the shop floor. So his theory can be at best can be called as can be best called as the scientific management of production techniques. Okay, it cannot be called merely as a theory. It was more about technique. Okay, but Taylor himself has later criticized this. Okay, he's saying that no, my scientific management is not about functional foremanship. It is not about some techniques and tools. It is not about training. It is much more than that. It can be used logically anywhere. Okay, or anybody can use it in any of the organization. Okay, but even though when we analyze it, we find that okay, it was not more than just mere development of certain techniques for improving the efficiency of the production process, nothing more than that. Okay. Third criticism is obviously of the principles itself. Principles and the assumptions behind these principles. Okay. So now you can elaborately criticize him for like if you see the trade unions. So trade unions criticized him for promoting the capitalist value system. So they said that scientific management is or was a threat scientific management was a threat to the collective bargaining. It diverted the attention of the management and the workers from the larger non-economic issues. The real nature of capitalist system, okay, the real motive of the industrial owner or the real motive of the capitalist, okay. So they are saying that it diverted the attention from more important, which were non-economic issues. He only talked about the economic issues of industrial process. Okay. So there were so many other types of conflicts which were there. It was not just a conflict over profit and wages. Okay. So trade unions were obviously against the scientific management. Okay. It also led to the alienation of the workers. Okay, why alienation of the workers? Creativity was restricted. How it was restricted? But there was no scope. It was highly objective in nature. It was procedure or technique centric. Okay. Can I rub this part? Okay, so here, okay, why alienation? Because it was totally technique based, and also Taylor could not understand the anatomy of the organization. Okay. His belief in the taking the entire organization only to the lowest level, and at the lowest level what he is doing, he is discreetly assessing each and every aspect of work, that is micromanagement. So he could not understand what is anatomy. Detailed study, physiology, form. So his focus on technically the structure, and that structure where only at the lowest level of the organization. So visualizing organization as only a structure which is existent only at the lowest level, it was obviously flawed. So more focus on the anatomy. Form was not very important for him, okay, but that anatomy was also restricted only to the study of the lowest level of the organization. Fine. So trade unions said that, okay, because of this kind of approach also there was huge alienation amongst the workers. Okay, efficiency was still the dominant goal, productivity or increasing productivity was the only aim. Okay, and now imagine that a management or under scientific management now both have mental revolution, but actually who is suffering? It is the worker. Evolution, mental revolution हो गया, but enlightenment किसका हुआ? Mental revolution was not an enlightenment, no. Who benefited out of this? The management. Okay. So he's saying ultimately there was no empowerment of the worker. In fact, worker had to work more under the scientific management. So trade unions were very vocally against the scientific management. Then along with the trade unions, the managers or the manager fraternity, okay, they also criticized, okay, because managers were critical because under the scientific management, okay, managers lost their discretion. More work, same pay. Okay. Okay. A restriction on So a restriction on managerial autonomy what it would do? It would reduce the efficiency in the long run. Okay, because managers will not be able to make decisions. Okay, and it's not that industrial process is so designed, industrial process is so organized. Okay, so what he is trying to do? He is trying to design the behavior as well as the decision making capability of both the workers as well as the manager, even though let's say workers don't take decisions. Okay, but at least in the day-to-day operation also they require little bit of liberty. Okay, so you cannot be as precise as the way or how to use a tool, how to keep a tool, where to keep the tool. Now this cannot be done. Okay, it is very difficult. Okay, because he was order and route clerk. What was his work? Disciplinarian. What was his work? Okay, the moment you use a tool, so he will be there, he'll say, no, go and keep it there now. Keep it back to the inventory. Okay. So it was obviously tedious and more exploitative than actually it seemed. Okay, so they said in the long run this kind of restriction on the managerial autonomy will be or will lead to inefficiency. Okay, managers were also not happy because of some other reasons. Unless they learn the new skill. Okay. So, okay, so we say something known as the organizational inertia. Okay, there is a term known as organizational inertia. Organizational inertia means that people want to continue with the way things are. But scientific management wanted administrative reforms, or you can say organizational reforms. Okay, not at the level of worker but also at the level of manager. So managers will have to upgrade their skill and get trained. Now they were not ready for that. Okay, so training, skill building, performance evaluation. So managers will have to go through this process and then only probably they will be promoted. So there was conditional promotion under the scientific management, conditional growth under the scientific management, and this conditional growth was not acceptable by the managers. Okay. Then number of later theorists, okay, like criticizing Taylor for being non-humanist. Okay. Like the human relations movement. Or human relations approach, okay, which focused on the mostly on the study of human beings. Okay. So human relations movement criticized the Taylorism for being non-humanistic. That means the scientific management ignored the social and psychological aspects. Social and psychological aspects of the workers at the workplace. Okay. Is this important? Why? They wanted to eliminate all this. They were structuralists, or at least they were looking for the structure. Why will they study this? No, so he studied informal organization that people engage in soldering and they reduce the productivity. Okay, what is the criticism? The criticism is that the scientific management does not have, or the principles do not incorporate anything which would have led to the empowerment of people or the workers within the organization. This empowerment also requires what? The understanding or the study of the specific cultures, society, and their independent or individual behaviors and attitudes. So that should also be studied. Workers are different from each other. They are also human beings. So the human aspect of an individual was totally ignored. In fact, it was not required for the scientific management according to Taylor. So he did not study, but this is obviously a later development. His contribution was at a very primary level. Now see, Europe had almost settled with the impact of industrial development, but America was still struggling. It was in the phase of the industrialization. Okay. So you can say Taylor's idea was, or maybe deliberately or maybe without or with ignorance, he excluded these factors because they were probably not an important ingredient for productivity at that time. They were not the important conceptions to be used in the theory building. Okay. But no doubt he ignored them. Okay. This will relate to the study of certain things like the group behavior, emotions, psychology, specific cultural traits, need for affiliation, etc., etc., etc. Okay. But these are very ideal attributes of an organization. If the organization is willing to give all this, then probably it will be one of the ideal organizations to work. Okay. But in general, none of the organizations will give all this. But yes, the movement, when it emerged after the Taylorism or Taylor scientific management, okay, it criticized because human relations movement came up with the idea that within the organization, it is important to study these factors. They lead to more productivity. Okay, that is why the criticism. Okay. Secondly, through his focus on techniques and the design, okay, what he was doing, he was trying to manipulate the human behavior. Okay. In fact, he was trying to pre-design the human behavior into a particular format. Okay. So this was also criticism that into the mold of scientific management. Okay. Pre-designed it. That means what? He might have known the importance of human behavior. Okay, but what? He was not ready to incorporate it into this study. Okay, so he pre-designed whether this behavior is not only related to workers, but both managers and workers. Then, assuming that people are motivated only by money, that is also non-humanistic. Treating humans as a cog in the wheel, or merely a factor of production. Merely a factor of production. Factor of production, that means the assumption that humans are purely economic beings, okay, motivated only by money. So this assumption was already a kind of conservative assumption that humans are only motivated by money. Okay, money may be a part of motivation, but is not the entire motivation. So this understanding was also anti-humanist or non-humanist in nature. Okay. What is the impact of this assumption? Oh, in general, I am talking about lots, let's say not just about the workers. In general, is this assumption correct? Okay, most of your classical, traditional, other theories, even behavioral theories later, okay, and many theories today also, most of them have the same assumption that humans are economic beings. Okay, it means two things: that we all want some benefit. Okay, without benefit we will not do in any relationship. Okay, if there is no benefit for obviously all those who participate in that, okay, nobody will be motivated to continue with that interaction or relationship. Okay, so it also means, here it means this, but being economic beings what? That humans are economic rational. Economic rational wherever they are cooperating, participating, acting, taking a decision, doing anything. Okay, the primary goal is what? Their own interest. So humans are primarily driven by all the humans are primarily driven by the self-interest. Is it true? Yes. Even in the other's interest, there is self-interest. Okay. So there is self-interest. You cannot take out the self-interest. There is a very famous philosophical thinker, Heidegger. Have you heard his name? Okay, Heidegger gives a very famous statement that no scientist can find out that what exists in the blood. Okay. So you can find out the biological classification, the constituent elements of the blood. But what actually is the substance of the blood, it is difficult to find out scientifically. Okay. So he gives a statement, he says that anybody can be like sun, but nobody can be sun. So he's saying it is the blood, it is the bond of the blood, and we don't know how this bond of the blood, it has such magnetic force. Okay, so no science can tell. This is the same logic. So self-interest is inherent to the human beings. Okay, now the logic is that, okay, at what cost are we fulfilling the self-interest? Okay, so if the cost of self-interest is manipulation and, let's say, selfishness, okay, or at the cost of the suffering of the others, then obviously it is unethical. Okay, so you cannot say that self-interest is bad. But what is the logic here? That assuming that everybody is self-interested, okay, is a partial understanding of human being. Okay, it is not totally wrong, okay, but it is only a partial understanding. Other dimensions of human beings were not explored. Okay, this philosophy or this assumption that human beings are like self-interested individuals, okay, has other numerous impacts, okay, incorporated by almost all the classical and traditional theorists, but it has some other impacts. Okay, this is known as actually Horde hypothesis, okay, or rabble hypothesis. Okay. So most of the classical thinkers, they accepted this horde hypothesis or the rabble hypothesis. That what human beings or mankind is what? Mankind is a horde of self-interested individuals. That means they cannot exist as group. Because the moment they will exist as group, they will have to compromise with their self-interest. Okay, the moment their self-interest is compromised, they will not be interested to continue. Now see, that is the assumption that, okay, if there is a collective entity like organization or a group of workers or a union of workers, that can be easily broken by creating economic interests. होड़ हाइपोथेसिस वही यही तो बोल रहा है कि हम सब अपने लिए काम करते हैं. नहीं, हर्ड मतलब ग्रुप होता है. Rabble is unorganized group of people. Rabble sound have you not heard? होड़ कैसे ग्रुप हो गया? हर्ड ग्रुप हुआ ना. Group has to be organized. Okay. So the people are, let us say, if we treat society that way, we can treat political systems that way, we can treat administrative systems that way. Bureaucracy, the moment you are saying bureaucracy, administration, you are referring to a collective entity. Okay. But in that collective entity, there are individual human beings. So corruption would be taking place only because of this logic. But if the organization is working, entire administration is working as a group, obviously it will be difficult to engage in corruption because some common values will dominate the individuals, or individual interests will be dominated by the collective interest. The collective interest would be the public interest. Okay, but that does not happen. So are you understanding this? So there are varied implications of this logic. Okay. That we cannot exist as collective being, entity. We cannot work together. Okay. We cannot work for the benefit of others. Our natural tendency is to bypass the collective interest for the individual interest. That is what our human nature is. So you see, this assumption is the basis of all forms of capitalism which we see. The degrees of capitalism also. Okay. But it is coming from this logic only. Liberalism. Okay. Hedonism. Have you heard of it? Hedonism. Individuals seeking pleasure and comfort. Okay. So, anybody interested or individuals are interested in material, give them the material and now you can motivate it. Agree? So, this is not a simple assumption. Okay, it has implications for various types of organization or the behaviors within the organization which is visible. Fine. So, humans as economic beings, primarily motivated by money, so create their stake as far as the monetary benefit is required. Then, so being non-humanistic or being non-humanist, these were the aspects. But we cannot totally say that Taylor was anti-humanist. Okay. Non-humanist is fine. Okay. Ignored or did not understand. But he was against the humans, or anti-humanist means what? Against. That is not acceptable. Okay. Because he did understand various aspects of human behavior. Soldering was one phenomena. Okay. Training, putting the worker in the right place. Okay. The manager would act like a teacher to the worker, and so many things he is talking about. That all fine. Then, what else was the criticism? What else can be the criticism? Methodology was not correct. Assumptions were not correct. Trade unions, managers. Anybody else criticized him? Okay, there was Peter Drucker was one of the biggest critic of the Taylor. Okay, you write one line. Criticism by behavioralists. Peter Drucker was one of the biggest critic of Taylor. Okay, according to him, by overemphasizing upon the economic nature of man, Taylor simplified the complexities of human behavior. Simon and March, just below him, criticized scientific management for being physiological organization theory. Just now we were discussing the difference between anatomy and physiology. So obviously he was concerned with the microstructure, okay, but also he was concerned with the form and no substance. Okay. Form is, what is the form? No, form and structure, there must be some difference. Can there be an animal in the human form? There are lots of animals in the human form. But obviously, as a form you distinguish, okay, that this is the form. That means what? Your typical structure, and along with the structure, there will be certain inevitables which will be associated with the human form. So you can say something as human when you see the form. Form is more or less what something appears like. Anatomy is more about the internal structure. So when you link these structures, you get a form. Are you getting? Okay. Or certain forms will have certain type of structure. So they are criticizing it that, okay, he was also concerned with the form. Form here means what? Simply they are saying that he was trying to design a particular type of organization. Okay. Along with his own idea of structure. Okay, mostly at the lowest level. So their criticism is more concerned with that there was no substance. He did not talk about the substance, the internal aspects, the process of the organization, nothing about that. More concerned with the structure and also with the form or the way the organization will look like. Okay. But this is totally not correct. Okay. But why they are using this term? So they are saying physiological. Okay. Only the basic necessities. Organization is concerned with what? Fulfilling the basic necessities of the human beings and nothing else. ठीक है, तो बॉडी को सर्वाइव करने के लिए कुछ चीजें चाहिए, दैट्स फूड और समथिंग, दैट्स इट. बट टू लिव यू नीड समथिंग मोर. So they are saying that his study or idea of organization only was restricted only to the basics of the organization and nothing more than that. They were only the simpler aspects of the organization which are necessary for the organization to exist, but not for the organization to grow. That is why they are criticizing it is a physiological theory. More concerned only with the survival of the organization and nothing more. Are you getting it? No. But your body needs food, water, something to survive. But you as a human being need so many other things apart from the food. Okay. So they are saying his theory or whatever knowledge he developed, that was only for the essentials of the organizations. But they did not qualify for all the needs of the organization, only for survival needs of the organization. Okay. That means by studying Taylor or by using Taylorism or scientific management, we can make an organization work, but we may not make an organization grow. So there is always a difference between survival and growth. That is what they are referring to. Good for the survival, but not for the growth. So, can exist and survive. भाई ग्रोथ कहाँ होगा? सिर्फ प्रोसीजर में? ह्यूमंस में भी होना चाहिए ना? The important factor behind the organizational growth is what? The human beings, which he did not understand. So by improving upon the techniques and the procedure, what you are doing? You are only increasing or improving the form of the organization, but not the real substance of the organization, which is the human being. So they can exist and survive, but okay, because these things you will understand when you go to the later theories. Okay, that is why we should technically we must study behavioralism first and then this. Okay. But as a student, obviously it would be difficult to comprehend the behavioralism in the initial classes. Okay. That is why we follow the syllabus methodology. Otherwise, it is more important to study behavioralism first and then come to this. Okay. So it can survive but cannot grow. Okay. They are also saying that. देखिए, okay. Taylor's principles led to the dehumanization. Led to under March and Simon लिखो under March and Simon. Led to, we are writing March and Simon, no, there itself you write. Principles led to the dehumanization and impersonalization. Dehumanization and impersonalization of the organization. Dehumanization and alienation. Almost. But dehumanization means what? Okay, same thing. Human factor को consider नहीं किया, study नहीं किया. Organizations existing without humans. That was the assumption of the Taylor. Okay. Impersonalization. Human beings don't come together for any other form or any other benefit, only for economic benefit. So impersonalized how? Now see. Okay. Everything will be according to a particular pattern and a technique. So what will the human being do? Nothing. Right? When there is no scope of creativity, there is no scope of individual knowledge, contribution made by his own experiences, okay, or some qualitative improvement which an individual can do to the job, nothing. So when there is no participation, no contribution of the human beings, okay, and also the assumption that most of the people coming here, they are purely coming from some economic benefit. So what he did, okay, or scientific management, what he did, impersonalized. Impersonal means devoid of any human emotion, passion, subjectivity, values. So it impersonalized the organization. Okay, there was no acceptance or no understanding of the social, emotional, cultural and other value aspects which exist within the organization. Okay. Also, the impact or the role of the human beings almost eliminated. So if everything is scientifically defined, okay, it is just like a machine which is operating. Okay. There is no scope of personal contribution. Okay. Personalization and impersonalization are two important aspects of organization. Personalization relates to increasing role of emotions, okay, or individual knowledge, individual initiative within the organization. Impersonalization is the absence of all this. So it is the rule which is doing, it is the structure which is doing, it is the technique which is doing, it is not you. Disinterested? नहीं, disinterested में तो आपका कंट्रोल है ना. You want to be interested, you want to be disinterested. So you have control over that. Okay, here you don't have control. That is the logic of impersonalization. Okay. Eliminating any kind of human choice, eliminating any kind of human element from the organization. So all the relations impersonalized, everything rule bound, everything procedure based, everything is already designed. You don't have to do anything, just go and sit, take a ride, come back. Okay. ठीक है, कोलंबस में झूलते वहां क्या करोगे तुम? लिवर का कंट्रोल तो उसके हाथ में जो नीचे खड़ा है, तो तुम सिर्फ चिल्ला सकते हो. You can only shout. What can you do? Okay, same thing. Here, shouting is also not allowed because the money or the incentives will be reduced. Fine. So, the scientific management, what it did? It actually created robots out of human beings. That is the meaning of impersonalization. Emotions were not considered positive. In fact, they were considered as a threat to the scientific management. Okay, write 2-3 lines. It's okay. Organization. Okay. Organization was considered as a mechanical entity comprising of, okay, now I am writing a word, kindly underline it, comprising of organic automatons like robots, humanoids, organic automatons, something like robots, organic automatons who can be fitted into the organizational mold. They are purely driven by economic benefit, and thus there is no need of social relationships at workplace. Scope of, next slide, scope of creativity, individual initiative, scope of creativity, comma, individual initiative and intuition were excluded from the organizational process. The entire organization was based on the impersonalization of human behavior. There was only a don't write it. So there was only one pre-decided behavior, and the entire organization was based on impersonalized behavior. Okay, that was the assumption. Okay, whether that was reality or not, it is yet to be seen later. Okay, so Peter Drucker, Simon and March. Okay, there is another person. Okay, right. Right, based on, okay, take another paragraph and write. Based on the criticisms of scientific management, especially by the trade unions, an inquiry was conducted by US Industrial Commission under Professor Robert Hoxie, which accepted the exploitative nature of scientific management. In this regard, behavioralists like Foley, Sheldon, have criticized the Taylorism, or don't write Taylorism, write the Taylor for undermining the social and psychological conditions of the job. Conditions of the job. The work itself can be a reason for demotivation. What they are trying to say? That Taylor never tried to study that aspect of work where that work itself can be a demotivator. Even if you are paying money to the people, okay, people may not like a particular type of work because it is routine and repetitive in nature. So they are saying that he never talked about enrichment or refining or improvement of the work itself. He was only concerned with the rational and empirical evaluation of the work and improving the efficiency of the work. But he is saying there is a nature of work. Nature of work or the study of nature of work is also important. That if a person is cleaning or is a janitor for 30 years of his life, so it is quite obvious that even if the salary is increased, the incentives are increased, or if there is a differential piece rate system, still also he will be demotivated. Why? Because the nature of work is like that. So certain jobs are inherently dissatisfying, even if money is given. So they are saying he never tried to study that aspect of the work, that where he is studying actually most of the tasks there are mechanical in nature. And in spite of whatever he talks about, the benefits or the money, monetary incentives, whatever he will give, okay, they may be demotivating themselves. Because the later behavioralists, who are behavioralists? You are writing but not asking. Okay, so when the classical and traditional approaches were criticized, then there came the emergence of behavioralism. Okay, behavioralism is not obviously a development in PubAd. Okay, it is development in general in most of the social sciences. Okay. Behavioralism studies the deviations. Okay. Deviations will come from where? The human beings. Okay, if I keep a cup here and leave it and go, obviously disaster can also change the position of the cup, no doubt. Okay. But I do not consider, let's say, disaster as one of the important factors or regular factors. Okay. So if I keep a cup here or I keep this duster here and I go, I would expect that this duster would be here only. Okay. Unless, obviously, Rajnikant tries to move it through some of his extraordinary powers. Okay. But obviously, the assumption would be that, okay, it will remain here. Now, if this duster has moved, okay, from here to there, but I don't see anybody, still I can make an assumption that this might have been a consequence of some human action. Is it or not? Are you understanding? So I studied this deviation. But who is responsible for this deviation? The human factor. If I assume that it is static and there will be no change, then what I am studying? The structure. These structures don't change themselves. These structures don't behave in the manner not desired by us, by themselves. They don't do it. Okay, unless the natural causes are considered. So that is not our. So in an organization, if we have designed something, it will remain the way it has been designed unless there is an interaction or influence of the human being. Are you understanding this? So if duster is used for erasing, but somebody is using this duster for hitting someone, so it is not the quality of the duster. It is the quality of the person. Quality or disquality, whatever. Are you understanding this? So even if we study physical objects, there may be huge deviations, not caused by natural reasons, but by the human factor. Okay, that is actually behavioralism. So behavioralism obviously is a huge branch of study, okay, which studies or which tries to understand the reasons for various aberrations, deviations, okay, causes, consequences, and tries to relate them, why this happened. Okay. And one of the important focus of the behavioral study is the human behavior. Okay. Because if human actions are or humans are guided by certain things, then only that attitude or temperament is manifested in some action or inaction. So we try to study that human behavior. Why something happened? Okay, then we become invasive within the humans. We try to find out why it happened. Okay. So initially it is only the study of human behavior. Behavior is the external manifestation of what you think. But what you think, now that also becomes important, and how you think, so that I can understand what you will think. Okay, that is behaviorism. But all this study is done empirically. It is a scientific study of the human beings, human behavior, human relationship, human interactions, okay, any dynamism associated with human beings within the organization. Okay. But it is a purely empirical study. Okay. Don't confuse that it is human behavior, so it will be emotional. No, I am trying to study the emotion, but with an empirical study or empirical framework. I want to know the facts of human emotion. Finish. And I want to find a cause and effect relationship. That if this happens, then this happens. So why this happens, or if frequently this happens, then frequently that happens or not. So I will try to find a cause and effect relationship. Right. So behavioralists were those people, you can say simply, who obviously tried to study the human factor within the organization. Okay, and any any deviations or consequences associated with that human factor. So they have criticized, because later when we will study behavioralism, we will find out that they said no, motivation is a multi-dimensional behavior. It is a multi-dimensional complex. It cannot be purely understood only in terms of one dimension, that is money. There are various facets of human motivation. So their criticism will always be there, because Taylor was obviously a primitive theorist. Okay, so later whatever the developments will come, we'll again criticize Taylor. Postmodernism, gender, this number of developments are there. Okay, but as of now everything cannot be used here. Okay, for example, if I say gender, did Taylor talk about the gender perspective? And how do we know he did not talk about it? Because he is using the word paying men, not positions. He should have used the word paying women. No, that is not the logic. Obviously, when he is studying or understanding the workers, okay, now you see the specific socio-cultural context. That time women participation in the workforce was very less, almost absent. So today when we study the gender, today we can use it and criticize him. But if we go to the context in which Taylor brings or develops his theory, okay, obviously gender would not have been an important concern in the study of even the society. Organization was a very, you can say, minuscule part of the society. So even at the societal level there was no concern with the study of gender. Okay, but today, because of the informed knowledge we have, we can criticize him. Fine. Are you getting this point? So you just write 1 or 2 lines so that we can capture the essence of all the behavioralists. Okay. Behavioral studies as a consequence of the developments which took place, around 1950s at the level of theory building in most of the social sciences. At the level of theory building in most of the social sciences. Influenced the study of organization and management. Organization and management. Commonsensically, or in day-to-day understanding, commonsensically, behavioralism is associated with the study of the humans and their associated behaviors. Within an organization. In the broader sense, it can include in the broader sense, it can include attitudes, emotions, social dynamics. Social dynamics means the relationships. Social dynamics, belief systems, comma, internal and external environment of the organization, comma, concepts like leadership, motivation, etc., etc., which shape or are shaped by, which shape or are shaped by the human factor within the organization. Okay. So you kindly put this knowledge regarding behavioralism in a block, because it is distinct from the criticism of the Taylor. Okay, this is only a kind of ready-made definition of behavioralism. Okay, just for your understanding. So you can say put this entire into a block, so you don't get confused. कि criticism कहाँ गया और behavioralism कहाँ गया, ठीक है? So many of the behavioralists, what they criticize the Taylor for this logic. Okay, lack of study of the culture, lack of study of the ecology or environment, lack of study of this perspective, that perspective, that perspective, that perspective. But later when we will study all that, again we will revisit the Taylor. Okay, that why he was criticized. Okay. Now you write few questions. The questions itself will contain certain criticisms as well as advantages. Okay, right. If you have this book, Prasad and Prasad, you have. Only the introduction part is good. The preface. Okay. So if you have, it's okay. Even if you don't have, so I'll get a photocopy for you of the preface. Okay. Other things obviously we'll do. Okay. There are so many other books also which are important for theories. But yes, many times these statements from this book come as questions. Okay. So we may hand pick those statements only. Okay. The logic is not much given in this book. Facts are there, but logic is not there. Okay, right. First question. Taylor did not understand the anatomy of the work. Anatomy of the work resulting in, comma, anatomy of the work, put a comma and then write, resulting in micromanagement, comment. ठीक है. Next question लिखिए. Within quotes. Next question, within quotes, you write. Okay. Mechanical understanding of organization leads to poor designing of the organization judged by impersonal human relation standards and productivity. Unquote, Peter Drucker. Next, criticism. Again, another question you write. Division of work into planning and execution is a misinformed analysis of work. No, within this next line. Planning and doing are within this itself, the next line. Planning and doing are separate parts of the same job. They cannot be totally divorced. Planning and doing are separate parts of the same job. They cannot be totally divorced. Unquote. Discuss the above statement in the context of the functional foremanship. One applied question you write. Discuss the implications of differential piece rate system. On the efficiency of organizations. In the context of modern day administration. Second question that we wrote. Kindly come back to the second question. Second question, number 2. क्या था? Can you read? Anybody read? Peter Drucker's statement?
Mechanical understanding of organization leads to poor designing of the organization, judged by impersonal human relation standards and productivity.
what does this mean? What is the meaning of this? Poor, judged by the human relation standards or logic is what? It is simply trying to say that when we are viewing organizations as mechanical entities, what we are doing? We are eliminating the larger portion of the human relationship, which is basically value based. Okay. Assumption that human relations are purely guided by money or economic benefit is not correct. So productivity is the end goal, and whatever means we are using is means are purely based on the self-interest. That is not correct. Okay. Third question. How can we understand the third question? Third question is again functional foremanship. Okay. So this criticism is obviously an overboard criticism. Okay. Taylor is nowhere saying that I did not understand the nature of work. Okay. What he wanted was that we are separating planning and the action part. Okay. So analysis of the work in terms of two aspects. One, the planning part, and one, the action part. Okay. So what he wanted, to improve the action part, there is a need for the planning. Okay, he understood that and he wanted. But later theorists have criticized it. Okay, they are saying that while somebody is doing, he is also planning. If somebody is not doing, then how that person can plan better if he is not doing? That means if we talk about functional foremanship, then there must be interaction between them also. Those bosses or clerks interacting with the manager and then with the worker. Okay, but there must be interaction between the bosses and the clerks also, or not? Is it or not? So what he did, he functionally separated them. Okay, and also structurally separated them. Okay, so this is the criticism. Okay, even though conceptually it is not wrong. But what is the criticism? The criticism is that planning is not a separate function or totally separate function from doing. Those who do can plan better. Otherwise, what will happen? Yesterday we were discussing staff and line. Okay. So even if we are saying that the functional foremanship led to something like staff and line, it is not the same thing. Because staff is not enjoying the authority to execute. Where here, the authority is directly being given to the planning part also and to the production part also. In staff and line concept, the authority does not come to the staff. Staff's role is only advising. Okay. But here we are not clear because they are also they have the authority to plan and convey the changes to or whatever to the manager. They, facing any difficulty while executing, can convey to the manager. Now manager will be dependent on the planning. Okay. So ultimately it is like a vice versa relationship. The manager cannot advise unless advised by the planning part. Okay. But yes, direct interaction between the planning department and the execution department is missing in this foremanship. That is the logic of this question. Okay. So you can discuss the pros as well as the cons. Functional foremanship in more sophisticated form is used in obviously most of the organizations today. Okay.
So can it be said that it's like dichotomizing planning and execution?
Obviously. Same. Policy administration dichotomy. But his idea is obviously not politics administration dichotomy, but it is almost something like that only. Fine. But the logic is that he wanted to improve the productivity and efficiency, and that is why he wanted to separate the functions. Okay. But separation of function, was it that rigid? Now that is still debatable. Whether Taylor conceived them as rigid separation, still debatable. We don't know. Okay, neither nobody can claim that okay Taylor was talking about this idea. Okay. So we can consider that yes, functional foremanship, division of analysis part from the action part was basically based on the criteria of efficiency. So there must have been a mechanism of going through the manager and interacting through the manager of the planning and the production. Okay, so manager will become the link between them and them. Okay. Fourth question. Differential. Any criticism? What criticisms of the differential piece rate system you can do? It creates rivalry, competition, cutthroat competition, jealousy, then against trade union, against collective bargaining, and
it can lead to cytokine corruption.
all right. Yes, workers can be manipulated by the managers easily. They will become individuals, so the manipulation can be much more impactful than what it was earlier. Okay, they will not have a forum of collective bargaining. Okay, anything else? Okay, there will be group formations. Okay, intergroup rivalries may emerge. Okay, later we'll study a theory when we study the leadership model. It is known as leadership management exchange. Yeah, leader member exchange theory. So in the leader member exchange theory, what happens? In every organization, leader creates certain close loyalists, a group of loyalists. These loyalists exercise power on the behalf of leader. So what happens? Peers exercising power over the peers. Okay, leads to more conflict. Okay. But slowly and slowly, most of the workers, because the close group or the group close to the manager, okay, or leader comprises of only few people. So slowly and slowly, rest of the people in the organization, they get alienated from the organization, resulting in retrenchment, leaving the job, some other conflict, some other conflict, some other conflict. So whatever he conceives of, okay, may be highly dysfunctional as far as the efficiency and productivity of the organization is concerned. Okay, later when the human relations movement or Mayo conducted the study, he found out the same thing, that in spite of increasing various benefits to the workers, the productivity did not increase beyond a point. So there is a limit to the productivity, there is a mechanical limit, but also there is a human limit. So for how many days, for how much a particular person will be motivated, that is unpredictable. But Taylor, okay, assumptions were there that okay, once you develop this strategy, definitely people are going or they are willing to motivate. Okay. In today's administration, differential piece rate system is visible in the form of performance linked incentive system. Okay. But how do you evaluate performance? Now in the industrial organization, it is easy to standardize the performance. But imagine in administration, is it easy to standardize the performance? No. You cannot define what is public interest first of all. Okay. Indicators of public interest, they are also highly abstract in nature. Quantification is very difficult. Okay. Second ARC, okay, when we will study, second ARC comes with this view: those who want money must not join the public service. Okay. So there was a Fulton Committee report which went for full-fledged personal reforms in UK, 1968. Okay, that committee said that no doubt the salary of the private sector or public sector should match, be or at par with the private sector, so that there should be less of brain drain from year to year. But they have accepted that salary should not be the ultimate criteria of public servant. So give them low salaries. People who want more salaries, they will not come to the government. That was the logic in India also, that deliberately pay less to the public servants So people who are motivated by money or who want money, they will not come to the public services. But what? It backfired. The same logic boomeranged. Why? Then people started earning money from other sources. So Hoard hypothesis still holds. Same thing. So using these kind of means is what? You are purely creating an economic stake. Or you are trying or accepting that yes, motivation only comes from the money. A kind of manipulation used by the management, okay, probably to create more favorable conditions for certain individuals and less favorable conditions for other individuals. So if people are not skilled at the same level, what will happen? Their contribution to productive will be variable, and because of that the benefits will be variable. This will create automatic distrust within the organization. Okay, so whatever you know now, you discuss based on that. Okay, don't try to write all this. This you will include when we, over the time when we add all this content. Okay, so when we finish off the class, then also we'll revisit the questions. So then your understanding of the answer would have changed. The content would be reformed. Okay, because now then, probably after finishing the paper 1, then you can view Taylor from a totally different perspective. Okay, now Taylor means that he will be linked to him everywhere. Fine. So, Taylor को छोड़ देते हैं. Let us leave him alone for some time. And let us pay a visit to Fayol. Okay. So, Henry Fayol and Taylor, in fact, yesterday we discussed also that Fayol had written a book, okay, probably much comprehensive book than Taylor, almost at the same time. But it could not become popular because it was written in French. In Prasad and Prasad, I think he has given, or they have given the year as 1949, which is wrong. 29. No, 29. When actual translation of the entire book took place in English. Okay. So, General and Industrial Management. General and Industrial Management is a translation in English. Okay. In French, I know, Administration des General, yes. So, Administration des General, the book that he wrote. Okay. Now, there was a huge confusion over the term which was used by the Fayol. Okay. So, the word administration which he used in this book, okay. Some interpreted this word administration as management, ultimately when the translation took place, General and Industrial Management. Okay. But Gulick and Urwick and some other supporters who had said, they said it must have been interpreted as administration and not as management. Okay. So right from the way, or right from the basic content created by Fayol, the controversy surrounds Fayol. And throughout the work of Fayol, there are numerous controversies. Whatever terms he has used in this book, okay, because they were subject to the interpretation mostly of the Western scholars and that too of the American type. Okay, so the interpretation they did of his terms, okay, it was considered that these interpretations were not accurate as was visualized by Fayol himself. So many people have said that, okay, it is not the Taylor, but it is the Fayol who should be the father of scientific management. Okay, but because of obviously special circumstances, the Fayol was not considered as the father of scientific management, but many European scholars agree that he should be considered at least the father of scientific management in Europe, or father of European scientific management is Fayol. Okay, so Henry Fayol, okay, was a French mining engineer. Obviously his qualification conveys a lot. Okay. His knowledge, his principles were also somewhere based on his experience of this particular sector only. Okay. But now see, academically he was much more qualified than Taylor. Taylor started off as a worker, having something like not even diploma, you can say, some vocational course he did in mechanical. Started off, then went to the highest post, no doubt. In the process, he upgraded his education. It was quite obvious. But what was Fayol? Fayol was academically also very qualified, and as a practitioner also very qualified, because he occupied the top positions within the organization. So now you can imagine that Fayol was basically viewing the organization at the middle and top levels, and Taylor was viewing the organization right from the lower level, or most of the career at the lower level and then to the top level. So if their experiences are considered as the facts or as the knowledge, then obviously Fayol will have more knowledge regarding the middle and the upper level, and Taylor will have more knowledge regarding the lower level, and that is visible in their theories. So Henry Fayol comes with obviously two perspectives. He was called as the father of now see, PubEd has so many fathers. This is also one important issue to be debated. Father of management process school. So what do the books write? That the father of public administration, political science is not father, it is the mother. So the management process school, known as the father of management process school. Now see, this term itself is enough to convey the logic of Fayol. Process. So he was more concerned with the process or the way the organization operates. Various aspects of organization. And that too from top probably to the bottom. Even though he did not study the bottom level. But he was more concerned with the actual operation of the organization from management's perspective. It is not the management, it is the management's perspective, from the perspective of people who are sitting at the top. So Fayol focused on the study of organization. Now just now we have talked about that there was huge confusion regarding whether the term which he used was management or administration. Later it was considered as management. But even if the term was taken as administration, so Fayol writes in his book that whatever principles of management, as translated, whatever principles of management we are talking about, these are the principles of human association of any kind. So he was more concerned with the study of what? Human associations of various types in various contexts. But what he said, that in any context you study, these principles are applicable to the human associations, wherever you study them. Whether it is a small family, or it is a religion, or it is something industry, or it is public or private or what. So what? He was the father of also the at least a pioneer of generic management principles. Generic management principle means the principles of organization which could be used anywhere. These generic management principles were context free, universal. Okay. Nothing to do with the ecology, nothing to do with the socio-cultural aspect, okay. Nothing to do with the purpose of the organization, okay. In fact, you can say these principles can be called as value neutral. Okay, they are value neutral. Why value neutral? Because they have nothing to do with the kind of work, with the nature of environment, with the nature of people, whatever. Any subjective element, any socio-cultural element, okay, it is saying it has nothing to do with that. So the applicability of the principles is universal, it is context free, okay, it can be used anywhere. Okay, you write one line. Right. Fayol is considered as the pioneer of management process school, and also of generic management principles. Generic management principles. Generic management principles which could be applied within quotes you write. Applied with respect to within quotes. Applied within quotes with respect to the human association of any kind and human association of any kind and any context. Principles are principles. Unquote kar do bhai. Principles are principles irrespective of the nature of organization. Principles are principles irrespective of the nature of organization and the purpose. In his famous book, General and Industrial Management, he re-emphasizes his belief in the existence of the universal principles of organization, and the need to discover these principles. Okay. In fact, there is a controversy regarding whether Fayol used the term management or administration. Management or administration. comma, though whatever it may be, Fayol's emphasis was on synonymity of management with administration. Synonymity of management with administration. So when we study the literature that he wrote, we find that okay, he technically did not distinguish between the administration and management. So his study can be equally applicable to, even though the context was a mining industry in which he worked, but his study can be equally used for the public as well as the private organizations. Have you understood this much? So public and private, okay, that debate will also come as a consequence of Fayol. Okay, आज हमें यही पढ़ना है. Okay, I think there is some emergency calls coming non-stop. Okay, so give me 1 minute, let me find out. 2 minute का break ले लो, अगर है, if we continue then we'll continue, if not then we'll stop. You can take a break. So today it will be over this time only. Okay, there is a colleague who has qualified for the civil services. Okay, the result which came, so he has given some, I think, a lunch. So we have to go. Okay. So we'll meet tomorrow. No problem. Okay. Same time, 11:30 you come. Okay. Tomorrow we'll start at 11:30. See you tomorrow then. Okay. भाई उनको भी बता दो वहाँ भी.